You know, things are beginning to get a bit more interesting inside of Israel. Now, okay, so we have this whole thing where Israel has been bombing Gaza indiscriminately for 7 months. And it's been horrific to watch. It's been horrific to see it happen. It's been horrific for people that are there to experience it. It's been horrific for people that have gone there as aid workers. Horrific for their families because, a good amount of them have died. Horrific for the people trying to report on this and subsequently have lost their lives, some people. In fact, there's been, I think, it's either 104 or 140 journalists have been murdered by the IDF since October 7th. It looks like, even in the beginning, it did seem a little bit like Israel might be fracturing on the inside. And I have read articles about the early days and watched YouTube videos about the early days and where, the IDF and the Israeli government largely was not even talking with the families of the hostages and families of the victims. To me, that's really a kind of like a no-brainer. That's the first thing you do in the event of something catastrophic like this happening. And yeah, do I consider this a catastrophe? Absolutely. It doesn't matter why it happened. It does matter why it happened, but in the sense I'm talking about it, it doesn't matter why it happened. It's still a catastrophe. It could have been an earthquake or whatever, and would the Israeli government waited this long had it been an earthquake, had it been like some kind of flood, had it been some kind of natural catastrophe instead of a man-made catastrophe, because that's exactly what it is. Because Hamas are made of human beings that committed these atrocities. And I do consider it an atrocity. Of course it is. Whenever innocent people are murdered, are killed, it's an atrocity. It really is, because you're stopping their potential. Now, that said, it is evident 7 months into this war, it is evident that Netanyahu and his cabinet have zero shits given for those hostages. They always like to bring up the hostages. They use them as a weapon, but what they do is antithetical to what they're saying. They say, our women were raped, our babies were beheaded. They put a baby in an oven, which that has been debunked. The baby in an oven, debunked. The baby's head's cut off, debunked. Was there? Probably. It's inevitable. It's inevitable in these situations. There's always some rape. It's disgusting, and is it gross? Absolutely. But was there systemic rape? No, there was not. And even if there was systemic rape, as a woman, I would not want to see all of Palestinians die or be starved to death, which end up dying anyway, because a group that is not them, even if they were supporting it, which I don't think many do, even if they supported it, they don't deserve to die for their beliefs. Do Hamas deserve to be brought to justice, the people that orchestrated this and caused this damage? I think that's actually a harder question, from my perspective, because I think about what got them there, and we don't really talk about that. It's not, and whenever I see people even try to mention it a little bit, if they're on a news show, they get pushback, and and really hard pushback from Zionist people that either are in not Jerusalem, or either in Israel or in America or in other parts of the world. Because Zionism is everywhere. But also, not every Jewish person is Zionist. There's a lot of Jewish people who don't agree with it, who don't buy into that. In fact, there's a few men from Orthodox Judaism that has been going to protests, pro-Palestinian protests, to advocate the oppression to be lifted from them, to advocate them to be safe.
Explain what's going on inside the synagogue. There's a real estate sale.
There's a real estate sale selling stolen property, which was stolen land that was stolen from the Palestinian people. Now, this is recognized internationally as illegal settlements, at least some of it. And this is, as Jewish people, we should not steal, and we should not sell stolen property. We should not share property that has been stolen. According to Judaism, if one shares with a thief, is considered a thief. And especially when this is happening in this time, while this genocide is taking place in Gaza, which is only making everything worse.
Because it's in their view and their religion, in Judaism, that they do not believe Israel should be a state. Like, other Jewish people do not believe Israel should exist because of what the Torah tells them. Now, I'm personally, if you know me, you know I'm atheist. I don't believe in any God at all. But I do think it's important to give people the freedom of being able to be religious or not religious. I think it's a mistake to say you can't be religious, and it's a mistake to say you have to be religious. Both are bad. Both are bad spectrums. As an atheist, I do not want to take away someone's right to practice their religion. However, I do not think you should be using your religion as a weapon. Now, the Orthodox Jewish men that are protesting this, they are not using their religion as a weapon. They are using their religion to promote peace, which is what most religions should be doing. When I was a little girl, I used to think that's all religion was for, was promote peace and love, because that's what I believed when I was younger. And as I got older and I could see the cracks I grew up Protestant, as I can see the cracks in Protestantism and really religion as a whole as I got older, I realized, oh, this isn't for me. But Zionism itself is not a religion. It's a political stance. It's a political ideology, not a religion. Judaism is a religion, not a political stance, not a political ideology. Now, it's a religious ideology, which is separate and is different. So I was on Threads earlier, and I thought this saying that Johnny Queer Boy 9 on Threads said, and it was under a Ben Silver post. Zionism exploits anti-Semitism for political gain. It's positively deplorable. And I agree. It's literally, and we could see it because, when kids at these young adults, because they're not really kids, but young adults at these colleges are protesting, and 97% of them were, in fact, peaceful. A lot of them included Jewish students, and a lot of them were very loving and caring towards each other. Now, the pro-Israel protests tended to be more violent, not because they're Jewish, because they're Zionist. Because they believe in such an extreme right-wing ideology. They believe that what they're doing is right. And they want to expel every one that's not Jewish from that whole area. That's what their goal is to have one Jewish state. And no state deserves to exist. As humans, we deserve to exist. But there's no state that deserves to exist. You know, and it's like, I hate this logic, because I think it's lack thereof logic of, well, we were there first. These people came and they just stumbled upon this land. They don't deserve it. We do. Because we were here 3,000 years ago. Well, if we're going back 3,000 years, well, there's a lot of countries that are going to have to be undone. A lot of Western countries are a product of colonization. And I bring this up because it's interesting. I was listening to NPR's talk to many people about how Hamas started, right? They got lots of different, people that are very much against Hamas, people very sympathetic to Hamas, and everyone in between, and people in between. And I think they did an okay job. Is it the complete and clear picture of what really happened? I don't think so. I think they skipped over quite a bit, and they acknowledge that. So I do give them credit for that. They acknowledge parts they were skipping over because it was way too complicated and to really bring up in this episode, and which I did appreciate them saying that. So they are saying we are minimizing this because for the essence of making this argument, we can't really get into this part of it. That makes sense to me. But I hope they got into it in other places, because Hamas is not some evil corporation that just wants to kill all the Jewish people. That's not actually true at all, right? So when we go back before the Nakba, before Israel became a country, and probably for decades before that, the Muslim people in the region, like the Middle East in general, they've been ruling there for a couple thousand years. I mean, they've been dealing with Western countries, America, the UK, to be more specific, had been colonizing that area, or had been attempting to colonize that area for their own political gains, their own political strategy, and it's when we do things, when we go and make, what? I'm going to take over your land. And as we become better people, because I think we are fundamentally better than we used to be 100 years ago. But that's not to say that things aren't still bad and don't need a hell of a lot of work. See, that's what I think we get caught up on. It's like, well, we're not better. We are better. We're just not where we should be at this point in our evolution as human beings. And the fact that Israel has in fact been experiencing this fracture within their system because of Netanyahu's, for his lack of honest effort to try to get those hostages back. So, I mean, for the families, absolutely, getting hostages back is paramount for them. Why wouldn't it be? If my husband was taken, I'm not sure I'd have the bandwidth to really care about Gaza if my husband was taken from me. I actually think I would, but I can see how that would happen. I'm not giving them a pass, but they're going through something else. They're going through their own personal hell right now. So I do give the people, but you know what? They're protesting. They're the ones protesting against Netanyahu because nothing's happening. They're taking action against him. They want him to step down. They want him to resign. And he's not resigning because he will be subject to criminal prosecution because he's absolutely criminal. And now the ICJ, which he's not going to listen to that. He's calling the UN a terrorist organization. Really? They obviously aren't perfect, but they're not terrorists. They're just trying to stop Israel from a genocide, from committing genocide. That's fair. And it's ridiculous that so many people can't see past what Israel's doing, that support it. And I think that's starting to shift, though. I do see more people coming out and be like, you know what, I see it now, I understand it now. And I think it's very important that when people do come out and like, you know what, I see it now, that we don't be like, why didn't you see it 7 months ago? Because they didn't. For whatever reason, they didn't. Stop being cliquish, because that's what that is, and accept people who are now like, oh shit, I'm awake, I get what's happening. I honestly think this time is going to be looked back on as the Great Awakening. And not just about Israel. It's the Great Awakening about America. I mean, there's lots of things that's been wrong with America for a long, long time. But the fact that a foreign government is being able to tamp down our own rights has been eye-opening for a lot of Americans. And harmful to a lot of Americans as well. Because we realize, oh shit, a foreign government, our government, is giving a foreign government preferential treatment over its own citizens. And I think Biden gives that preferential treatment towards Israel, not because Israel is more powerful than America. That's stupid. It's because it's advantageous for Biden to be still in bed. But not politically, which is stupid. It's actually really antithetical to what Biden claims to support. But AIPAC has also given him $11 million. That's a lot of money. And a lot of other people are being talking parrots for Israel for a lot less. So it doesn't take a lot of money to corrupt somebody against the American public. And the fact of the matter is, Biden, Trump, and Kennedy all see Israel the same exact way. They will all unconditionally support Israel and its efforts, which is a huge mistake because it's disenfranchising Americans. So, and I think the biggest thing I took away from that is the lack of action from the Democratic Party. And I'm not talking about progressives. I'm talking about the corporate Democrats. The corporate Democrats in action to the middle of the country made it rife for the corporate Republicans to take all those people and be like, you know what? They're treating you badly. I'm going to treat you better. But then they don't. But they lie to them. They lie to them and tell them how what they're doing is in their best interest when it's really not. But they basically also promote they stomp down on people that think in a critical way. They don't want, every time you criticize their side, you know, if you criticize their racism, what they're doing, they look back at the people that are criticizing them and say, well, you're the one that's a bigot, really. You're the bigot, really. They just turn that all the way around. It's opposite day every day. But that's how the right works. So, tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, night, weekend whenever you're watching. Subscribe.